Are you training for the next big race and unsure what to do with your nutrition? Well, take advantage of Precision Fuel and Hydration's free online planner. It'll help you figure out exactly how much carbs, sodium, and fluid you need to smash your goals. I swear by their 90-gram resealable gel on all my long runs and recently used it at the Ballarat Marathon. Click the link in the show notes, use the planner, and get 15% off your first order with the code INSIDERUN15. Support the Inside Running podcast and boost your performance. Now let's dive into this week's episode.
Child, that your skin can bring you so much pain. Now I hear you say you got the best of both ways. Won't you come and take a walk in my shoes and tell me if you take my place? Under cover of my skin, I've heard all your names. If it's all the same, I'll keep on walking.
Welcome to episode 363 of the Inside Running podcast. Big show this week as we recap both the Melbourne and Chicago marathons, including a new women's world record. There's a listener question asking whether marathons should be run on Saturday instead of Sunday, and I have a feeling Moose is fired up for Moose on the Loose this week. Before that, I'll introduce this week's panel. Welcome to the bloke who has broken the internet over the last few days with his heroics just metres from the finish line of Sunday's Melbourne Marathon. He helped a distressed runner to cross the line, dashing all hopes of a sub 2:32 finishing time. It's Inside Running's resident superhero, Julian, the Big Moose Spence. How are you, Moose?
Oh, Croaks, just imagine if you were 5 minutes slower, you could have had all this glory like I did.
I know. As I was thinking, like, you're probably running past Flinders Street Station at like 40.5K going, it's going to be a rough week on the podcast. I've got to explain how I stuffed up my tactics, and then you get into the MCG and you're like, geez, this guy's collapsed in front of me, get him across the line, and now you're a national hero.
You beauty. It's all just working out for me today.
I hear word on the streets, basically you versus Ned Brockman for Aussie of the Year next year.
Yeah. It's funny, there's been a lot of liberties taken with the reporting on what happened there, and I was like, it's been on 7 News, Daily Mail, this kind of stuff, and apparently it got like a bit like viral on TikTok, because I had people like messaging me who don't follow running, who saw it pop up on their TikTok feed, and I don't quite understand it. Like, for me, there's no sacrificing of my race. My race was over an hour and a half before that happened, and I was literally just jogging into the finish. So there were, like, I don't feel like it's a little embarrassing actually, because he was actually the bloke running in. He was in the half, but he'd veered off into the marathon lane. So everyone who says, everyone was running past him, they probably didn't even see him because they're just running down the half marathon lane. So I was only the first person that come across him. And what are you going to do? Just run around someone who's sort of collapsing in front of you? All I did was just walk him to the finish. It was all very much hammed up. But look, positive for me for the day. Some people think I'm a good guy now. Tricked them.
It was funny how it ended up being on Instagram, because I was chatting to you underneath the MCG and you sort of like just said, guy like collapsed in front of me and I helped him across the line, and like that was pretty much it. And then I'm walking back to my accommodation and Andre, the cardiologist, calls me and he just says, congratulations on your run. I said, I'm just staying around the corner from you. He's like, do you want to go and grab some breakfast? So met up with him for breakfast and he goes, did you you hear Julian helped a guy across the line? I said, I was chatting to him underneath the stadium, and then Andre's partner had filmed it. And so I said, can you send me that video? So I got it, and I'm like, I'll just chuck this up on Instagram. And like, and what I said there, Moose, like, as much as like you come across as this sort of pretty harsh guy at times, but really like you're a big softie.
There was very little choice in the matter, and I'm not like, I tell you what, if that was 2:20 on the clock or 2:19:45 and I'm running in, it would be a little bit more hesitation.
At least you're honest, Moose. At least you're honest.
Yeah, because whether I run 2:31:40 or 2:32 or 2:35, it doesn't, by that stage, irrelevant.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, I'm not very strong anymore. And he's not the smallest unit, Michael. He's and dead weight, when they're like, it's like carrying a drunk person. They just lost control of their limbs and they're just like all like a heavy weight. And so I thought the most embarrassing thing would be to fall over on him as he pulls me over in front of the whole G. So I went into some deep strength reserve.
But what about, like, you've picked up a random, 10 metres from the finish line, but you run past your mate Matt Gunther out near Flinders Street Station, who's on the road?
Well, weirdly, I didn't see Matt. So I wasn't even aware that he was out there. I thought he had finished and he'd like, even at the finish line, I saw Bree, and Bree said she saw Matt collapse at 39K mark, hit the deck, fall over, grab the fence railing to try to stop himself, and he was falling over with the railing falling on him. And then he was, so yeah, that was a bit nasty.
Yeah, because I was sort of tripping out a little bit because I ran past, I saw a person on the ground, and then I'm like, same sort of colour singlet as you, and then I saw the socks. I'm like, that sort of was what Moose was wearing, but I'm like, it can't be Moose. Like, Moose is behind me, and we haven't been on this part of the course like twice. But then I'm like, oh, maybe it was Gunther. But then those people like medics and stuff were with him by that stage. So anyway, we'll talk more Melbourne Marathon. Let's introduce the next co-host for this evening. This guest won a stacked Melbourne Half Marathon on the weekend, taking down both the Commonwealth Games marathon gold medalist and Australian 10K road record holder. Welcome back to the Inside Running Podcast, Leanne Pompeani.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, congratulations. Like, sensational run. Like, that top end of that field was, as I said, completely stacked. Is this the biggest win of your career, like bigger than Zatopek?
I think so. I think just because of the form that everyone's in. Like, sometimes you line up, and although you're lining up against the same people, you're not all you're at different stages of, racing and whatever. But I think everyone was in pretty good form. So yeah, I mean, it was close. It wasn't it wasn't a smashing, but yeah.
On the start line, how confident were you of getting the win?
I mean, I sort of battled with this all week. I would go from being like, yeah, like I can shake it up, and then I'd sort of let myself get in my own head, and I'd see the sessions that the others were doing, and like, oh, nah, I can't run as fast as that. Like, so yeah, I didn't think I was going to get the win, but I knew what I was going to do. It was just race, just go with it.
And how does it make you feel when you look at the people that you've beaten? So you've beaten the Commonwealth Games gold medalist and the Australian 10K road record holder. Because I don't know about you, Moose, but I feel like sometimes Leanne doesn't get the accolades that she deserves, just because there's so many top girls at the moment who have been to world championships on the track or on the marathon, Commonwealth Games, Olympics. And you haven't been to any of those yet, but you've been there or thereabouts for a few years now, but you're actually beating these top girls. But I feel like you haven't been given the accolades. Do you sort of feel that sometimes as well, Moose?
Yeah, I think you're right, because further down, I mean, you've got Jess Hull, who's an Olympic medalist, and then the marathoning ladies tend to grab the spotlight a little bit more, because that's sort of where the attention has been the last couple of years. And obviously Leanne hasn't run the marathon yet. So I do think like that. I think that this was a massive win for you. Like, I thought Izzi Batt-Doyle was nearly unbeatable with the form she was in. And I think I did tip her to win. But that sort of speaks to how good your race was, Leanne. And now I think when we get to a start line, every single lady there will be looking across more than they were, thinking, okay, like she's got to be the favourite now after that Melbourne half.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you say like, oh, I don't get the attention, but I sort of feel like it's fair enough. Like I haven't made any major teams yet, so why should I? Like, yeah, but I mean, it did
good attitude. But
you were on an Australian cross country team. That's pretty big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And look, that was you. Like that day, you were literally 200 meters away from like one of the most outstanding races ever. Like, Moose will remember it.
On my face.
every single lap, we're like, Leanne's in this front pack. What's Leanne doing in the front pack? But it's like she looks good in the front pack. Like she doesn't look like she's straining. And then like, oh, I wonder how long this will last. 1 lap goes past, 2 lap goes past, 3 laps. It's like she's still there. And then when you went past us down in sort of that muddy section, like you're still like there. And we're like, man, she's going to have an absolutely incredible result here. And then we obviously didn't know the result because
I thought at that point too I was going to.
but that was I reckon that was the sign that there's something special because you didn't look out of place up there with those top African girls. So yeah, big things to come for you.
Oh, thank you.
Any questions, Moose, before we go into her sort of weekly recap and the race?
I just want to hear about the race. That's kind of like, that's what I want to hear. And when you go into it, Leanne, just before you recap it, talk us through what you had planned with Des, like how you plan to race it, and I really want to know the intricacies of the dynamic in the front pack. That's really interesting to me. I want to go back and watch the replay. I haven't had a chance yet, but
well, there's not much. You'll only see it sort of only cuts in. I ended up finding the end of it. It sort of cuts in less than a K, probably 800 meters to go is when they finally. Yeah.
So take us through from Monday what you did that week.
Yep. Okay. So Monday, did 10K easy in the morning with Aaron, 4:40, and then standard 30 minutes in the afternoon with strides. Tuesday morning, double 35 minutes, and then in the evening with a track session. So this was sort of the last sort of hard thing before the race because Thursdays are real easy. So the session was our standard 200s to warm up because I need that. And 2 sets of 5 400s. So the first set, and these were on a 1:45 cycle. So the first set I did in about 70 to 68. Short break, and then the next 5 were all in 67s. So I was pretty happy with 67s with pretty much 30-second rest.
What was what was the gap between the sets?
Maybe 2 minutes.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Good session.
So it was nice to feel, and I felt pretty strong. Even Des sort of commented on like, oh, you're actually looking a lot better running. I don't have the most graceful form, but I think he was just commenting on how stronger I was looking. So I guess that was a bit of confidence. Then we had 2K. There was meant to be rounds. I got a bit funny with Des because he said, oh, we're going to do a 2K at 10K pace. And I said, so are we talking like goal 10K pace or or like what my current 10K pace PB pace is, because that's different. So we said no, current. So we did sort of 310. So we ran 620 2K and then 4 times 200 in 30 seconds. So that was and that was good. That's sort of one thing I'm trying to work on, and I think it kind of showed. I'll probably get this later, but I'm not one to have a kick, and at Melbourne Marathon, Melbourne Half, I managed to find some sort of tiny little kick. So maybe these 200s are actually helping me. I don't know.
Yeah, I outkicked a Olympic 5,000 meter representative. Good sign.
Yeah. So maybe we'll keep them. Wednesday, only 40 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the afternoon. So this is where we really started to just dial it down. And then Thursday afternoon was just an easy taper session of a 4K threshold and 4 times 200 hill incline jog back. Not really a hill, more of an incline. Friday, my usual 2 days out, 30-30 split. 30 in the morning, 30 in the afternoon. And then we get to Saturday. So yeah, I just did about 7.5K along the river in Melbourne. Did some strides, bumped into Jen there, had a bit of a chat, which is nice. And yeah, then we get to race day.
All right, tell us all about it.
Okay. So in terms of plan, we didn't really have a plan. The plan was just whatever the other girls were planning. So it was more like, you know, I told Des there'll be no need to even look at my watch. And I think the other girls were on the same page. Like I don't think I saw them look at their watch once, and neither did I. So we were all there just to race. And it was nice because I haven't seen Izzi in a while. And there was an elite briefing on the day before, and I had a chat to her, and she came up and she said, "Oh, like, I'm excited to race you." And I thought, oh, you know, like I need to just relax and just, because I was quite nervous, and just I need to have the same mentality that Izzi has, is just like be excited to race your competitors. Especially knowing, and I think I said to you, Brad, when we did the long run, like Jess, Izzi, and I are similar in the way we race. Our tactics, or almost lack of tactics, is how we race. So like we're just hard runners. We don't really go with the whole slow, fast finish kind of thing. So that's what I was most interested to see how it went. You know, it'll probably show honestly where we're all at, just the way we race. And it was pretty much that, yeah, from the start. It was 3 of us. We did have a little group with a couple of men in there, which was sort of chopping and changing. But honestly, it really didn't change much at all until like 17K, where maybe Izzi just was, I don't even know, a couple of meters behind, but I never counted. I don't think we counted like any of us counted any of us out of the race. There was none of that. And it ended up being, I don't know if you thought the same, but I was surprised how much more wind there was than I was expecting around Albert Park. And by then we only had one male in our group that was sort of leading us. So all 3 of us girls were trying to fit behind this one man, which wasn't really working. But yeah, honestly, it was just the 3 of us the whole way, sort of just only switching who was the girl in front, really. That's how it was. And I was thinking about it on my run this morning. Like I was thinking about the course, because there's one spot where we run into the back of, I think it's the marathoners.
Yeah, but you'd be coming into them, like those marathoners would be relatively quick marathoners, because I remember at about the 31K mark of the marathon looking up ahead, and I could even see you girls.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so if it is the marathoners, it's probably like the 225 guys, I suppose, and there's not that many of them.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know who it was then.
Or is it?
Because we were.
Yeah,
because this was round
maybe
the other side of Albert.
Yeah, maybe the slow marathoners.
I think it was.
Yeah, because I guess that would be them leaving Albert Park, which would be.
I think so. Yeah.
Like 13K. So so it'd be them.
Yeah. Yeah, and Tim Crosby was honest with us the day before as well. He said, look, there's going to be some spots where we do run into the back of people. And I guess that's just, they're not really sure how they can fix it. Because if you want everyone to be finishing, the finish line is great. Like I love how they separate the 10K half and full, so everyone has their own lane. So coming into the MCG, we had a clear run. But yeah, out near Albert Park, it was a little bit messy. We had a bike in front of us he was trying his best to get people out of the way, but again, no one was really listening. No one could hear. You'd have a group of people and half would go one side, half would go the other. So we were a little bit messy through there, but so that was probably just after 10K when it got a little bit congested, but then they went off down the bay and then we headed back. And it was actually really nice once we sort of head back along St Kilda Road, the rest of the half marathoners were coming up. So as soon as we turned, the noise just kicked it up a notch. Like, yeah, pretty much from, I don't know, with 8-9K to go, it was pretty noisy. So that actually, yeah, that helped. But yeah, so I don't even know what my 10K split was because I didn't look at my watch. Neither did the other girls. So it's only going off what the splits were. I just opened the race as well.
Did you sense any weaknesses at any point in time that somebody was like
Yeah.
maybe breathing a bit heavy, or was like at some point was Jess trying to like drive the pace, or were you or were you just
So
three across the road?
it was nearly just 3 across the road, and like I sort of laugh at myself now because there's always a point. I don't know if it's just me or if everyone thinks this, but there's always a point in a race, whether it's a 10K or half or whatever, where you want to pull out. Where you're like, oh, how easy would it be? Just
only one point. There's quite a few on Sunday.
Oh yeah. Okay, well, multiple points. And then, yeah, there were a few times I was like, oh, I could just, maybe today isn't my day. Maybe I'll just step off. And then I had to be like, no, like, come on, you're not actually that. Like, surely they're just as, feeling it just as much as you. So so thankfully I didn't step off. Yeah, but no one was really giving signs of struggling. Jess probably was the one that did start to push the pace, and I thought, oh, like, she's just relentless. It was just every time we sort of maybe like slowed a little bit, she'd sort of get a half a step ahead, and I thought, we're just gonna stay here. And yeah, I think it was 17K when maybe there's a tiny gap where Izzi just dropped off, but she was always there. And yeah, I was sort of looking out for, because I wasn't looking at my watch, the kilometer, there wasn't a kilometer marker for every kilometer. So I was sort of waiting for the 20 kilometer marker to come up, and I assumed they'd have the 20 kilometer marker just because yeah, Jess was really pushing the pace at this point. I thought, I don't know how much longer, like, I've probably got one move to make. I don't know how much longer I could, carry it. And she was pushing, and I thought, where is this 20 kilometer marker? Like, and then I see the MCG, and it was pretty close. And I thought, oh, okay, we're pretty close to MCG. I don't know if that's, we still haven't passed the 20K marker or what. And then we sort of coming into the tunnel. I'm like, oh, okay, like, we are well and truly in the last, in the last K. So that's when I sort of just put the foot down a little bit, got onto the mats, and then I just had to keep it going. Like, I knew Izzi wasn't right there, but I knew she wasn't far behind, because when people were cheering, the only way you could gauge it is from hearing people cheering, because they'd say, go Jess, go Leanne, and then it was literally 2 seconds later, go Izzi. So like, okay, she's still there, and she's the one with the kick. So I was kind of expecting her to come out and just overtake me, but yeah, I did find a little kick at the end, and that's pretty much how it played out. It was
course record, small PB.
Yeah, small PB. Yeah, so like, none of us knew what time we were on for. I only until I got to finish line, I thought, oh, okay, well, didn't get sub 69. 68 looks better than 69, but yeah.
Any questions, Moose?
No, it's pretty cool race. I mean, it would have been great to be part of that half marathon, seeing him rolling down the road. At 10K, who did you think was going to win?
I think I thought Izzi was going to win. Yeah. Because when we were going around Albert Park, I thought she was playing it sort of a bit tactical she was sort of sitting behind Jess and I. So, and because it was quite windy, I thought, oh, yeah, maybe she's saving a lot of energy here. And I honestly was just waiting for someone to make a big move. But then as we got to probably, 16, 17K, we all did sound pretty tired. So I didn't think any of us had a massive move. So I just thought, well, as long as we're all there together at the finish, well, close to the finish, it's whoever's sort of got the closing speed, really.
Yeah. So it's great to hear you say that you've got you're the winner of the race, but you at one point you thought that it would just be easier to stop running.
Yeah.
Everyone in any event on that day would have had the same thought, I reckon.
Yeah.
That's great that you could share that.
Yeah, it's so true. It's great to hear like elites, because like every punter out there can relate to wanting to pull out. So it's good that somebody at your level even feels the same. Also, I love that you girls, because there's a fair bit of money on the line and you, like I said, you didn't even look at your watch, but you girls still like got after it without having designated pacemakers. And so you ended up making it still like a really honest race, even though there could have been a bit of cat and mouse trying to, cash in and make as much money as you can.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to what I was saying, how we're all just sort of similar races that, like in the way we race, that sort of, regardless, like if this is the hardest I can go, well, having a pacer there won't really change that.
Yeah. Well, all three of you are like aerobic beasts, you know what I mean? Like it's not like one, it's not like the Rose Davies, like there's not a Rose Davies in there that's just gonna sit and do absolutely no work and just hopefully be there at the end and kick. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how was, like, I know we've spoken about a fair bit on this podcast, like you have been battling hamstring stuff, for a while now. And like these races hurt when your body's in one piece. Like how much hamstring discomfort did you have during the race on Sunday?
Yeah, more than I would have liked. So normally a taper week will settle them down like hugely. And you can normally see that in also, and this is what I noticed about taper weeks. The further along the taper week goes, my easy runs, like just the jogs to get through the week, are quicker. I don't know if you feel the same, just same effort, but they're just quicker because you're fresher, but that's exactly what a taper week should do. But also with that is that the hamstrings settle down. And I knew Saturday they just weren't as, I had a little bit more pain that I was hoping for, and I knew it, I could feel it racing, but I did sort of forget about it eventually. Like I was probably well and truly through 10K, I was still sort of thinking about it, thinking, oh, I wish I couldn't feel this right now, but I just sort of end up blocking it out, and it's all right.
Yeah. I've got a question about not so much this race, but maybe a previous sort of few years of males pacing females in races where records and qualifying times have been hit. I know there's like there's been some disagreements out there around whether that's fair. So just like as some examples, like the Grand Prix 10K, Riley paced Izzi for that race, and like that's an example of and that was a race. So Izzi was racing other elites there, a good prize purse. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I personally don't mind it, but I think there's a place for it, and then a place for just racing your competitors.
So well,
Leanne had Aaron at Gold Coast last year?
Yeah, remember? You and Ellie, I think.
Yeah.
And I had Aaron, and Izzi had someone, I think it was meant to. Yeah, it was funny. Yeah.
But on the weekend, you three had the best race, and it was such a like a spectacle. What would you have thought if Jess had, say, Dylan in front of her the whole way? And like that's where it gets tricky, isn't it? Because it like I'm with you. I'm like, it's a male and female race. You can't stop it happening. So you might as well do it, especially if you're trying to go for a time or something.
Yeah, that was the question I was, sort of chatting with Des about. I thought, is Izzi going to have someone? If Izzi does, well, I'll just, I won't bother having anyone. I'll just try and go with them. If it's going to be a pacer for her, it's going to be a pacer for me too. But I'm sort of glad. I think we all just, without speaking to each other, just realised that this was the race, not to have a pacer.
Yeah, so, that's good. It's like a little bit of like intuition around it.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, like sometimes you do just want to go for a fast time. So the only person that can get you through that is a male. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And what's next? Burnie 10?
Burnie 10 is next. Yeah. So 2 weeks. So I'll just sort of get through this week, recover the next few days, and do a few sort of nothing crazy, nothing hard for sessions, and then just, do the Burnie 10 and roll into the next one and roll into the next one. And
Yeah. So it'd be like what, Zatopek? Zatopek after that, or you do like Noosa Bolt?
yeah, I'll be up there for Noosa Bolt. Haven't done it before, but yeah, we'll see how I go. A 5K with lots of turns that involves decelerating, accelerating. But yeah, no, but I've heard it's a fun weekend, so yeah.
Yeah. And then have you spoken to Des about how your domestic season looks? Is it predominantly like really focusing on, because in terms of 10K track races, there's only Zatopek after that, 5Ks, the next one. So is it focusing on the 5 over summer, or will you start to maybe transition to a bit of a marathon block first part of next year?
Yeah, so we haven't really planned much past December yet. And yeah, it's a bit hard to, because in terms of just getting into races, it could be a marathon in, early next year, but we just need to wait and see what comes about if we get into one. And there's a world champs in September next year. And, the marathon, Japan in September is disgustingly hot. So I don't know if doing a marathon is really that enticing, but a team's a team. So so we'll just have to see. Like December is sort of, I'm only planned up until December, but I'll
watch this space. It'll be very, very exciting anyway when you do make your marathon debut. I'm sure the Australian public are pumped about that.
Pressure's on.
Moose, your week and your Sunday.
So my week was spent still trying to get over the back injury I had. So we spoke on, was it Tuesday night?
I think we did Monday last week.
Monday, yeah. So I was in, I don't know what I said on air, but I probably gave myself about a 15% chance of starting, because I just couldn't walk properly, let alone run. Like I couldn't even walk the dog. And then as the week went on, I got some treatment and it started to feel a little closer to being right. But the days to the race were getting less and less. So I think it was improved. My chances of running were improving to a point where I ran on Friday. I went for a jog. What did I go? I think I went for a jog before I got the treatment, just 20 minutes. And then I had my last treatment and I thought, gee, I think it's okay. But I just ran at like 5-minute pace or something, or 4-minute 30s. And it's very different to running at pace. So I woke up Saturday morning and it felt okay. And so I thought, let's just do some efforts. So on Saturday morning, I got out, put the race shoes on, and I did, I think it was 4 or 5 by a minute, and I just ran them at about marathon effort or marathon pace to see what the body felt like running at that intensity. And it felt fine. I just had some weird other tightnesses that I think you would get if you had like 8-9 days off running. So I just, that at that point, that was Saturday morning, and then I thought, fuck, you better start eating some food. You've got a carb load to get in, because the worst thing in the world is doing a carb load and then not running. It's like the awfulest feeling ever, because I've done that before, and I've done it where I pulled out early in the race too, and I just hate it. You've just gorged everything for the last 24 hours and you just feel heavy and you don't get a chance to burn it. So I started to eat a little bit, like just normal carb load stuff, but I probably wasn't as strict. I was eating things I wouldn't normally eat because I had to get up to Melbourne for the briefing to get my bib, and Bree was working, so I had Pia. So we took off. I had to go and stop to get gels because I didn't have any gels. I had to stop to get pop tops. I had Toby on the way. I was in a real rush to get there, so I called ahead. I said, Toby, can you write up some labels for my bottles? So I stopped at Torquay. He taped the gels to the bottles as I was whipping around the store trying to get Pia on the toilet trailing. So we got up to the city, eventually got to the briefing. Then after, that was great because then I could relax because I got there on time, got my bib, chucked the bottles in, and then took Pia around the city. I really knew at this point, I wasn't respecting the proper marathon prep, but I thought I had some good long runs just based off normal Saturdays, so perhaps I'll feel okay. I got dinner, I tried to find a pasta joint. Bree, she's gluten-free, she's celiac, so there's plenty of good pasta joints, but then you got to find a gluten-free option. It becomes a little difficult, so I ended up just getting some Vietnamese food, which ended up being super spicy. Another no-no. If for anyone listening out there, don't eat spicy food the night before your marathon. Had a decent sleep, so we were staying in the city. The building was actually a really shitty hotel, really gross and dirty, but I had a pretty good sleep. I wasn't nervous at all. It's probably the first marathon I've ever done where I didn't have any nerves. I knew by that stage my back was good. I was fine. I knew the back wouldn't play up on me. I was just very unsure about how the rest of the body would handle it, given that I'd had a big period off running, and even before that I wasn't that conditioned for the marathon anyway. So I was going in really kind of unsure, but I wasn't nervous. I was really happy. I was kind of grateful that I got to start the race, and that was the mindset that I had. I really enjoyed getting ready for it in the rooms. One thing that Melbourne Marathon Festival does well is look after the elite and sub-elite field with the facilities.
Yep.
They are just elite at looking after the elites. The G is such a cool place to get ready. I got there early, I had a shower actually to try to warm the back up before the start. And you're looking around, I'm like, this is where the bloody grand finalists were showering. We are in the players' rooms here. This is actually really cool. So much history in this facility. And I always loved that. And then we walk out to the start line and we get our sort of own little route out, do a bit of warming up, have a start line area. I feel that Melbourne do that so well. And we were just on here talking about how Sydney maybe don't do that very well. You heard Tom Ducano was out basically doing his own thing, wasn't really allowed in with the elites or anything. So this race is the opposite. And they're really playing for that. You were in that briefing, Leanne, where Tim Crosby, the coordinator, was saying they're going to build this race up to be a domestic, the best domestic fields in the country.
Yeah, so, I really appreciate that. How they've gone about that, saying we won't invite internationals. We'll put the money back into our Aussie athletes, and look what does happen. Pretty much everyone turned up. So,
yeah, exactly. Everyone turned up, which is what Sydney didn't have. And the racing was epic. Every race was pretty cool to watch. I thought there was a story in every race out there, and I think they can obviously work on promoting their fields earlier. I think to build a bit of publicity. I know there were people in I had friends that do follow running that would have gone up and watched had they known how good the field was in the women's half. Had it been promoted, they would have travelled to watch, but there just wasn't wasn't the foresight to announce the field and build the publicity. You should have had media contacting you, Leanne, talking interviews before the race, almost like a media conference, that kind of stuff. Maybe next year. maybe
Yeah,
feel that.
yeah. But I agree. Going back to the toilet situation, I mean, obviously that's maybe a little bit selfish because it's
It's
for
worth
a
it's
minority,
worth
but but it is. You definitely do appreciate it. And another thing is the finish line situation and how I was talking about how everyone's finishing in the same spot. Not to bag Sydney or anything, great event, but having the 10K finish somewhere else makes it a little bit dull.
Yeah.
But obviously you can't, logistically, sometimes you just can't have them finishing in the same spot. But the way they've done it coming into the G with your own separate lane, like, they did that fantastic.
Yeah, agree. It's pretty epic feeling. And it gives people a chance to see their people they're cheering for when they separate them like that.
What about Melbourne having their own like little barista coffee stand?
Oh, that
in
was
the change rooms,
epic, wasn't it?
That's pretty cool.
So basically, if to describe how it is, it's like a big it's probably where they do their warm-ups, I'm guessing, when you're like watching on TV and all the players are doing like their warm-up, their handball drills, that kind of thing underneath. So everyone was set up there. There were chairs, tables. There was pastries in the morning. There was a barista, 2 baristas on a coffee cart pumping out your orders.
Fridges of different drinks.
Yep, fridges of drinks, and then you could go and have showers beforehand. It was it was kind of just a change rooms facility. Really cool. The massage therapist, if you wanted them. And then you walked out. You got a chaperone to the start line where you could warm up in front of the start line. So if every year you think, it's not like, I feel like a bit of a dick applying for an elite start when I'm not elite in any way, but it is actually worth it. And I'll keep doing it until I can, until they tell me, no, you can't have it. But yeah, so my race, I decided not to wear a watch for this. Well, I wore the watch, but I didn't look at it. And in the past, that's worked out quite well because I ran to feel and I've been able to judge it well. However, I didn't judge it very well in retrospect. So the first K, so on the start line, where we sort of all line up. Croaks, you were next to me at one point. Matty Gunther was next to me, and we stand at the start line. The back, they lift up a tape from behind, and all the preferred starts in the main field can push up. And all of a sudden, we go from standing second from the line to 10th from the line because everyone just pushes forward. And I think I was just more worried about falling than missing packs or anything like that, because the people in front of us, they're going to go off. We went off at 3:20, our first K, maybe 3:23 or so, and I reckon 80% of the people standing in front of us went off in 3:40 or slower. And so you're just literally just running straight up the back of them as soon as the gun goes. The elite females were all seemed to get shuffled behind the men that pushed forward, and they're a little bit they're not quite as strong, so they don't get to just push past or throw elbows, and it makes me pretty mad when that happens. It just doesn't make any sense to me why you would want to be on the front line when you're definitely not going to be running in any sort of front pack. There was a class there were 2 men up there that had pushed through. I'm not sure they even had preferred starts. They pushed through to the very front of the line. They're standing up there next to I can't remember who it was. Maybe Jack Rayner and Ryan Gregson. I think they were next to Ryan Gregson on the line. And I could just see, I'm like, this is going to end badly. They had 3 women lined up straight behind them. Gun went. They stood there. Everyone runs off. They jog off at 4-minute K pace maybe. The women run straight into the back of them because they're 2 pretty strongly built men. The women can't get around them, so they just stop. I run straight up the back of that woman. I'm like, this is fucking ridiculous. So I said that to them as I ran past. Like, why are you doing this? But they were running 4-minute K, so they just get filtered out the back. It's just so unsafe, and it must be ego or something. Maybe they want a photo. I can't understand. Croaks, you might understand better than me.
I got no idea because we identified it like 5 minutes before. We're like, I said to Moose, I think we should probably move up a little bit. When you're looking at the people that are in front of us, I'm like, pretty sure I'm going to be quicker than that guy. And I said to you, it sort of reminded me of like when I stacked it at parkrun. Same thing. Like I wasn't even on the front line of parkrun, but then gun goes and the guy like walks off the line and I run up straight up the back of him and trip over. So it was, and I said that last week when Jeff was on about, one of the things that I'm almost always scared about is that first 5 seconds of the race. Same thing when I'm pacing Gold Coast is getting off the line, getting some free space because, often you see so many people just go down in that first 5 seconds.
Yeah. And I think that you made a good move moving over to the left for a clear run. I should have moved, but I didn't. I just didn't want to push past people at that point. Yeah. Anyway, I think it'll happen at all the different events. I actually saw at Chicago Marathon, Tom Middleton, our Road to Chicago guest host, he was on the front line of the race. And he was trying to run 3:20s. The guy next to him was running 2:53s or something. Well, 2:55s, was it maybe? I'm not sure why he needed to be on the front line. I can't understand that either. It's the same sort of thing, I reckon. Like you just don't need to be there. If everyone thought like that, it would just be an insane rush to the front.
So talk us through so you got off the start okay, and then how'd you feel throughout the whole race?
Well, I ran with the lady. So Jen Gregson we heard whispers she was running 72.5 minutes through halfway in order to run the race record, which would have netted her a bonus and got her the win most likely. And she was being paced by an Irishman called
Brian Fay.
Yep, who's elite runner, like proper elite runner.
Not like 13:01 5K, I think.
Yeah. Like absolute jet. And you could tell on the start line, you're like, whoa, this guy looks good. They just look good, those guys. So he got out in front of Jen. I just sort of slipped into the pack, looked around, saw all the usual suspects who I thought would be in the pack, including yourself, Croaks. And then Matt Gunther was there, Ash Hoffman, John Dutton was there. Guys that had sort of mentioned they'd be running about this pace. Hardy, a guy I coached, ran with him in Geelong. And so we cruised along down St Kilda Road without really looking at the pace. It looks like we've sort of averaged around 3:23s for that first 5K. So that felt fairly comfortable. I thought this is good. We got a good group. Probably didn't need to go that quick in retrospect. But that downhill section, it's actually not downhill based on Strava, but it feels downhill. And we had a tailwind as well. I think it's the next 5 that's more downhill. And then we turned into the Albert Park. I moved forward to the pack to get my drink off the aid station. We've dropped a 3:19 in there as I went through the aid station basically, and 3:21 the K after. And the pack rejoined me. We've run 3:23, 3:25 at that point. But I looked around probably at around the 8K mark and the group had split. So there was no Croaks there anymore. And there was no Hutchie and there was no Jen. And I thought, what's happened here? Like, I don't feel like we picked this up too much. And looking at Strava, we only ran a couple of Ks a little quicker, but that was enough to put a little break in. And I thought, this is stupid. I don't need to be doing this. And I thought, but you're in a pack you've got Matty Gunther next to you, who we've done a lot of training with, and maybe we'll calm down from here. And we probably didn't calm down too much. 10th K was 3:18, and then we ran a 3:20. So all of these Ks here are what led to my demise. My goal was to run 3:25 type pace. So me running a 3:18 is 7 seconds quicker than the pace I wanted. And at that point, I can't see that I'm doing this. I'm basically just trusting a little bit that the group is staying consistent. And my watch, I should have had my paces turned on, and I hope that I would have been disciplined enough to see a 3:18 and go, get back there, run a 3:35, even yourself out, get back with the other pack and look after yourself for the second half. But I didn't, and I'm looking through these Strava splits now for the first time, and I can basically see it's like a pathway to my blow up. So we stayed together, this pack, the whole way throughout Albert Park. We go down Fitzroy Street. The pack actually dropped me a bit here. They ran 3:16. I slowed down, caught them at the bottom of the hill or back onto the beach road. There was a headwind going out towards Elwood. We kind of, I didn't do the ton of the work here. I just sort of tucked in 3:28, and then 3:24 to turn around. And this is when things started to get a bit hard for me. So at about the 20K mark, our next splits have gone 3:21, 22, 23, 23. And I got dropped here. So my group must have run a lot quicker than this, because I reckon they put 10 seconds into me over 2K at this point, and I was still running 3:23s. And because I didn't have my watch showing, I actually thought that I was slowing down substantially just because of how much they'd put into me. And I reckon that affected my head a little bit, because then I've slowed down. Like, I ran the whole way down to the turnaround down sort of Elwood Way by myself. And realistically, I'm looking at these splits thinking, you're actually doing pretty well. You should have, like, at the time, I'm thinking that I was cooked, and that I was running 4-minute pace, but I'm running 3:26. And then as the turnaround, my legs just felt absolute cactus. I turned, slowed down to a stop, almost tried to take off, and the legs were just shaking, basically, they were just so sore. My left hip had locked up. I couldn't lift my knee up properly. So my gait was really short, and trying to keep the same velocity was just costing me too much effort. So I went into a bit of a tailspin here. Running back up, it was into the headwind. I was by myself. I was getting passed by a couple of people here. I reckon, Croaks, you went past me about 38. That'd be right?
I went past you not long after the turn at Elwood, like 26K.
Well, 26 is the turn.
Oh, well, 27 then. It was like it was within that K. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've probably only been 10 seconds behind me, and I've run a 3:36 and a 3:29, and so you've caught up to me there. And I would have, my body just, my running legs stopped. I've run a 3:55. I went through an aid station, dropped my bottle. I looked at my watch and I thought, you actually have to go and get this bottle, because you won't make it home if you don't fuel here. So I stopped, turned around, got it, walked for a little bit as I opened it, and then started running again. So that was my slowest K for the race. It was 4:08. And then I started to feel a little bit better again, and I got in a rhythm, and I just maintained a sort of effort back along St Kilda Road. I actually ran into the women's half. I reckon maybe like 5th to 10th place, and it sparked me up a bit. So I jumped on the back. This is I loved the merge this year, because the merge, they were going about my pace or slightly faster. So I was like, oh, good, I can jump on here. And they ran 3:46, 47, 46, 41, 43. And then going up over the tan, I saw Bree and Pia, went to give Pia a high five. I was going so slow that she grabbed my hand and just stopped me. So I just turned around and was like, all right, I'll just give you a little kiss. Went to kiss her and nearly fell on top of her because my legs buckled. So get running again. And then ran sort of just under 4-minute K pace into the finish. I was getting real hot at this point. I was actually when people went past me, I was stoked for them. It was a very non-competitive mindset I had out there. I was people running past, like Dane Verway, went past. I was like, oh yeah, go on, good on you. Scotty Cracker from Geelong went past. I'm like, this is good. You guys are having a good race.
It's funny you say that. It's funny you say that, Moose, because it's going to be something similar. Like I think we're in similar spots at the moment.
Yeah, yeah. I love the race. So I finished in two. Well, I'm not sure what it said. I've stopped my watch 2:31:57, and it didn't feel like a fail, even though it was an unbelievable fail at running a good marathon. But I actually finished quite content and happy. I'm a bit embarrassed by the pacing. The pacing of the race was immature, no discipline, just totally lost any sense of what I could actually achieve. And I've got to get back in tune with that. But yeah, the few, like, some real mistakes made, but lessons learned. And you would think I wouldn't be learning lessons in the marathon at this point, but I learned some great lessons out there. It was probably the best way to learn is when you have those races.
Also, I think, Moose, when you're racing regularly, you're in tune with all of that stuff, but you lose it. Like if you don't go on, and you've obviously had you're a bit like me over the last few years where you've entered some marathons, but you haven't got to the finish line, which you're not going to obviously learn too much about the pacing side of those things because you never see how the pacing in the first half, affects the second half. But I think that shows you need to sort of get out there regularly to be in tune with how marathon pace feels.
There was a lot of learnings, and that was one of them. The other one was stop trying to run elite times, or not proper elite, but high-end times when you do not train like a high-end runner. Like your talent has ended, you're old, you're on the decline, you're not training, you don't have the fight just to go out there and guts through it anymore. So in order to be able to run those times, you have to pay it the respect it deserves, and that means training properly. Doesn't mean skipping runs, it doesn't mean working. Like Friday night I was at work for 10 hours, and I was putting stuff together, and I got home late, and I remember thinking, oh, this isn't very good if I want to run a marathon. And they're just it's sort of disrespecting the marathon, and Sunday shows what happens when you do that. Yeah.
And I also think with the marathon, some of those 20, 25K sessions, you can get through them and you can sort of go, oh yeah, that's my marathon pace. And then even when you go out on race day at that pace, it's a big difference between doing a 25K session and racing 42K.
That's the other thing that I learnt too. Doing one session a week is not enough. Yeah. You have to expose your body to more hurt. And I think that's why my legs just broke down, is they weren't exposed to enough hard work in the lead up.
And volume. There's no substitute for volume, because often, when you're doing big miles and you're doing those long marathon sessions on tired legs, that's different to doing them fresh.
Yeah. And
you have been doing those sessions fairly fresh.
Yes. Yeah. If you're doing less miles, you have to have more intensity in there. And I did not have that, and I didn't have the miles. I was hoping for a miracle, and there are just no miracles in the marathon. No. It's just too fine line where you need everything to go right for miracles to happen.
As you're tuning in, you're probably gearing up for a race, but how dialed in is your race nutrition? Precision Fuel and Hydration has you covered with a free online planner to calculate your carb, sodium and fluid needs for peak performance. Their range of fuel and electrolyte products makes it easy to hit your numbers. I swear by their resealable 90-gram gel on all my long runs and recently used it at the Ballarat Marathon. They also fuel top athletes like 4-time Olympian Lisa Waitman, Hayden Hawkes, and a regular guest on the Inside Running podcast, Izzi Batt-Doyle. Visit the link in the show notes to personalise your race strategy. Use code INSIDERUN15 for 15% off your first order and support the show. Patrons, use the special code from the Patreon feed in Patreon-only episodes for a further discount of 20% off. Ready to elevate your performance? Click the link now. And now, let's get back to the show.
Yeah. All right. I'll whip through my week and then go through my race because it's sort of similar themes to yours. So Monday got out for 45 minutes, 4:16s. I think I listened to the Peyton Craig interview actually on that run. That was quite good. Well done, Brady. Then Tuesday's track session was 5/600s off a 200-meter jog. So I ran all the 600s between like 150 and 152. So that's probably like 305-ish pace, somewhere maybe a touch slower. Jogging the 200s in like 55 to 57 seconds. It was comfortable enough. It's like race week. You're always sort of reading into how you're feeling. So yeah, tick that one off. Wednesday, got out for another close to 45 minutes at 4:14s. And then Tommy DeCano messaged me that afternoon saying that he was on his way to Melbourne. He was stopping in Canberra and wanted to know what I was doing for training the next day. I said, mate, I've just got like 3K at marathon sort of pace or effort with a short warm-up and cool-down. And I sort of said to him, I said, like, I can go in the morning, but I don't want to go too early. And he had I think he's taking his family to Questacon at like 9 o'clock. So I'm like, all right, well, how about we just meet at 7:30? So, warmed up around Yerraby Pond for 17 minutes and then changed shoes and did 3K with Tommy, which was good because I haven't really been enjoying these sort of taper sessions, just going out on your own and sort of just, I said last week, you just feel like you're filling in time. You're not really getting any fitter, but just having him there was good. So I did 3K at sort of 3:23s, which felt definitely better than when I did that 2x5K session. And it's quite funny. He got very excited because I was running around Yerraby Pond and I'm like, like Cam Meyer sort of lives around this area. He's like, oh, really? And then later that day, he sends me a screenshot. Cam Meyer started following him on Strava. So he was very excited. So that was Thursday. And then Friday, we drove down to Melbourne, left here about 6:15 in the morning. Thankfully, Viv did a lot of the driving. The only bit she didn't do was like heading into the city. So I was able to sit there and just eat bowls of pasta, or like cold pasta with a bit of like pesto sauce over the top. And then I met like Alex and Jack, who I coach from Sydney, and Zach, who I've been training with for a run. We met down at the MCG at like 4 o'clock, picked up my bibs. We did 9K, 4:18 average just along the river. So that was nice. All those guys were fairly pumped because Alex finished like third at the New South Wales half champs and Jack was making his debut and Zach has been doing sessions like really not far behind me at all. And his PB going in was like 2:35. So I was excited for those boys. Got up Saturday morning and just ran 20 minutes around or 5K around Carlton Gardens because we're pretty close to there. 4:17s and then did a few strides. And then race day. So I wasn't super nervous either, Moose. Like I had a pretty good sleep that night. I was going through phases throughout the weekend where I start to, days leading up to a race where you can feel yourself sort of getting a little bit worked up and a little bit sort of flustered and you get a bit of I get like a bit of a flushed feeling through my head and face and tension sort of headaches a little bit.
I don't think that's normal though.
You don't reckon it's normal?
Leanne, decide this one for us. Is that normal or not?
I don't get like that. I definitely I was thinking about it all week, and I think it comes to me more when I'm trying to sleep. So at the worst time. So I'm thinking about it and then not falling asleep because that's all I'm thinking about. That's more.
A noticeable thing though, Croaks, race week for you. In our message chat, you're on edge. You get real edgy. Like, don't poke the bear in race week when Croaks is racing.
It was all right. What did I say? I thought it was okay.
No, it's not just this one. It's like historically.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't race.
The boys know.
Don't race very often. Anyway, so my race was sort of similar to yours, Moose, in that like gun went off. I knew that I was going to go with Jen's group because I'm like ideally I thought 72:30 to 73 minutes would probably be better just from where I'm at to be able to sort of maybe accelerate off that pace. Because if I was looking at my old training, like in the lead up to Gold Coast when I ran 2:23, like all of my sessions were probably at least 5 seconds a K faster. Like I was doing 15K around Yerraby Pond at 3:14s and it's like, or 3:15s and went to Launceston as a session on that really sort of windy day and broke 70 there doing like 5K on, 500 float. and like K reps in like 303s, whereas that sort of is like 309s now. So I'm like, well, if you start thinking about it, like 5 seconds a K over a marathon or 6 seconds a K, it's like 3 to 4 minutes, which, is 226-ish. Anyway, the first few K, like I never felt settled. A bit like how I explained with all my sessions, where like perceived effort definitely felt like on the higher side, definitely manageable, but fine. So I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go with it. We get into Albert Park, and then, yeah, as you said, Moose, like you surged to get that drink, and then a completely new pack just formed in the space of like a kilometre and a half. And I'm still back with Jen, feeling okay, but feeling like probably how I did when I was pacing at Gold Coast this year, where it's easy to probably work a bit harder than marathon pace when you're only running 30K. And so I probably felt like I was running similar sort of effort. And then we got out of Albert Park, and by this stage, like most of my sessions, I start to warm up and feel pretty good. So I turn around and I've dropped Jen, and then I've got one or two other guys with me. And then as we're heading along Beach Road, I'm like, you guys were the carrot. So I'm like in between Jen's group and your group, and it's a little bit windy. Like I didn't notice the wind too badly at that point, but I kept like looking around going, like I should go back with Jen's group, because I do feel like this is not probably marathon pace. It's manageable now, but I'm not sure what's going to happen. But then I'd be lying if I said that you didn't impact what I was doing. I'm like, okay, like, I do want to try and beat Julian. I don't want him to get too far ahead, but I was then letting what you were doing probably dictate what I was doing, when I should have just been even further back with Alex, who I coach. Anyway,
you don't reckon you're fit enough to run?
Not really. And I'll get to it a little bit later, but while I was having some rough patches towards, after 30K or just before 30K, I started to think about, okay, how do I sum up what marathon pace or marathon effort is? And I've got some criteria now based on what I saw and how I felt on the weekend. So anyway, we get to the Northern Turn, and I'm still with a couple of guys like Keith McPherson and some other guy who's like Deneen Runner's singlet. And go through halfway in like 72:04, and I just had this feeling that I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to kick down off this, especially knowing that we're going to be turning into a headwind. And like I started to get a little bit negative, but then at that point, just as I started to get negative, you started falling off your group, and I'm like, oh, this is good.
Right.
He's coming back. He's coming. And then pretty much by the time we got to like the Southern Turn, like I knew I was just working too hard by that stage. I knew I was going to catch you, but I caught you and I said, mate, let's just run together. I said, this is going to.
You never said that.
No, I did. I said,
you
no.
Didn't say that at all.
I did. No, I did, because you said, no, mate, you keep going. You're looking fresh. So, because I was like, I remember it was pretty much the 26K mark or so. And I'm like doing the maths. I'm like, I've got 16K of this. And I feel like I'm at a point in my running where hurting for 16K is too much. So I need to be feeling a lot slower, feel a lot easier at 26K. And then just after that, just after I passed Jumus, we sort of made that right turn, and that's when the wind was at its worst. I pretty much like checked out after that in a way. I saw Viv at 30 or just after 30K. And because Collis always has this saying, like, if he's not liking something or he's eating his dinner, he's like, I don't love this. I've grabbed my bottles and I said to Viv, I don't love this. And like I was pretty much at that point where I'm like, I just don't care about this enough to absolutely go to the well. And so I'd been rolling like low 17 minute 5Ks. And then I think I went so between 25 and 30K was 17:29, and then 18:13. And then like I had a few people then go past me, including Alex. I gave him sort of, some encouragement, going, mate, come on, finish it off. And then it was about probably 33, 34K where Jen caught up to me. And that was good for me, because I sort of got out of feeling a bit sorry for myself, and she got in front of me at one point, and I sort of sat behind, and then I managed to sort of get back just running level with Brian. But then by the time we got close to the 10, like she found that last 4-5K like really difficult. Like I wasn't kicking home or anything, but like dropped her pretty easily and quite enjoyed the hill in a way, because I went 18-13 for the 30 to 35K split. But then from 35 to 40, I went 18 minutes. So I felt like if I had to compare how I felt from sort of 28K to almost the finish compared to training, it's almost like if you're doing these long marathon sessions and you go from marathon pace back to just a float. I felt like I was doing that where it's like I'm just the comfortable side of being really, really uncomfortable. Just wasn't willing to like completely bury myself, and then just rolled it through, because once I realized that I wasn't going to like run sub 225, I'm like, well, I don't really care, but like what's 226, 227, 228. I just didn't want it enough. I was just happy just to be out there going through the motions. But some of my thoughts about how I should feel for the first 30K of a marathon, and for next time I'll know that I'm running too hard if I can't really take in all the surroundings around me, or if somebody cheers for you and you can't actually like look up and acknowledge and see who that is. For me, like I didn't do any of that the whole race. Whereas I reckon when I ran my best race in BWA, like I was pretty well aware of what was happening for the first 30, 35K. So that's probably a sign for me that you just like, somebody says, go Croaks, and you look up and you almost give them a wave or say thanks, which I wasn't doing any of that. Another one. Jess. Was that?
That's like Jess. The first 6K, people were cheering her and she'd be saying, thank you.
Another one was Moose about 3K before we caught you, and I'm with those two other blokes. I'm sitting in behind them. They're having a full conversation. Like, oh, what do you do for a job? Oh, I'm a school teacher. Got to go back to work tomorrow. It's like, oh, yeah, you should have taken a sickie. I was thinking about it. And I'm like sitting back, not like heavy breathing or anything, but I'm like, oh, those guys are doing it a lot easier than me. So that was another sign for me that I was just working like a little bit too hard. And the other one as well is I just needed to listen to my body. Like I knew early on that I probably should have been more at that. I should have even dropped off Jen's group, I reckon. And if I'd gone through 73 minutes through half, I reckon I would have probably close to even splitted, because the way I felt at 26K, I wouldn't have felt until maybe 34. And then I reckon I've still got enough mongrel to fight for 7K. But when I'm feeling that way at 26 and I'm going, I'm not doing this for 50 minutes.
Yeah. So. I reckon you're being a bit hard on yourself with that, like, not fighting thing. Because 16K physically, it's probably not possible to fight for that long. Like, there's fighting, right? We can be tougher than our body tells us we are, or whatever. But 16K, like, you can't sustain that sort of effort or pain for 16K, and the body has to slow down. The reason you're in pain, the reason that you're feeling like you want to slow down, is your body giving you signals that you have to slow down.
Yeah.
Now, some tough people can ignore that for longer than other people, but for a full 16K, like, the physiology doesn't, like, you can't out mental physiology.
I certainly wasn't, when I went past you, like I certainly wasn't cooked by that stage, but I definitely started to have that heavy-legged feeling, which is the start of like the demise, I reckon. But then hitting that wall of wind at 29K, like that didn't help my mentality.
That was a hard run up that hill. Very hard. And I was thinking the same thing. Like, for me, I was thinking, geez, when I had good marathons, I was at 30K and I had so much pop in my legs.
Yeah.
Like, I was ready to go. I was ready to jump out of my skin. And now I'm getting the 30K and I can't lift my knees up.
But I think those signs for me, like the one about like, could I just have a full conversation with the person next to me, like at the 24K mark? Like, you should be able to do that. And on Sunday, like, I didn't feel like I wanted to or could have done that.
Yeah.
So and just being aware of the surroundings. Because then I suppose the other thing is, Moose, like, if I was at 30K on Sunday, if I was on PB pace, like my mentality would have been completely different. Like I would have been willing to keep trying to empty the tank, whereas I'm like 225, 228, 229. Like I don't really care. Like I'm going to keep running to get to the finish line, but I'm not going to probably empty myself. No. Or the other incentive for me would be like if I was in some really low key marathon and I felt the way that I did at 30K, but I'm in like top 3 or something and I'm actually competing in a race, then I probably care about it. But for me, the difference between finishing, I don't know, 15th in Melbourne Marathon and 30th, it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter. I had the same thought process, but I also had no physical capability to fight it. I was thinking, I don't care if I run 230 or 232, but even if I wanted to care about that, I literally couldn't go any faster.
Yeah. Look, I reckon I may have had like 30 seconds to a minute if I really wanted it, but at the end of the day, it would have still been a substantial positive split because my first half was too quick, essentially, and that's the thing. And I don't know how people that go and blow up just about every marathon they do, I don't know how they keep going back.
Yeah.
Because I reckon if I was running another marathon in, I don't know, a few months' time, I've learned enough from Sunday that I'm being ultra conservative through 30K or halfway to make sure that I feel like I'm full of running in that last 10K.
So, be on the couch till 30K.
Yeah.
It's what it has to be.
Yeah.
It's still the best piece of advice there is.
But it's hard. I feel like that's almost taking it is. I know what it's saying in terms of, okay, you're so relaxed because you are relaxed when you're on the couch, but I think that's why I tried to put things like quantitate that a little bit by saying, hey, can you, if somebody wanted to have a conversation with you during the race, are you willing to have that conversation with them? That's a sign that you're still on the couch.
That's right. It is a sign. Yeah.
Yeah, which I feel like just saying you're on the couch, like gives people you need to then say, well, what does that look like when you're actually running? You can have a conversation and want to have a conversation with the person. Somebody cheers for you and you're willing to look up and see who that is and say, oh yeah, thanks. Like that means you're on the couch essentially. Whereas if you're sort of head down, it's still comfortably hard, but you're working, then that's not being on the couch. So
it has to feel like a Sunday long run.
Yeah.
There's just you have to be so in tune with your body to be able to nail that though. That's it. It's being in tune, isn't it?
And one of my other negative thoughts was like, because I had quite a few runners out there and, we've sort of done a lot of the same sessions. And so I'm like, I'm struggling here at sort of 30K. I hope all my athletes don't feel the same because then is that a reflect, like, have we basically stuffed up the training? But then, like when Alex went past me and like ran 226 for a couple of minute PB and Zach, who I've been training with, like he went from 235 to 229. So, and even Rob, like Rob's PB from the Road to Berlin series, like he broke that in Melbourne on the weekend. So that sort of, although I crossed the line a little bit disappointed, having all these guys come across the line within sort of 10 minutes of me, or most of them within a couple of minutes, like it was really a good vibe around the finish line there.
Yeah, it is. It keeps you out there. I 100% me too. Like I felt like you got to stay out there.
Yeah.
You got to stay out there for everybody else in the race who's hurting just like you are.
Yeah. So I was 20. So 227.20. I think I was 23rd. First old guy, I guess, over 40. Yeah. So anyway, I learned a lot. I learned a lot as well. But I came away from it not being super keen to train for another marathon anytime soon. But give me a couple of weeks and that might change. The one downside of my race was about 5K in my Achilles on my right side just sort of like twinged, and it was like probably maybe a 3 out of 10 pain. It like certainly wasn't enough to like make me limp or anything, but I'm like, I've had no Achilles issues during this whole prep at all. Like, why is my Achilles sore? And then it went away. But pretty much since I've cooled down, like I can't actually toe off when I walk. So I've definitely done something like to my Achilles, which I'm hoping like a week off and some anti-inflams will just settle it down. So that was the only downside of the race, I suppose, in terms of, being able to pull up and sort of train in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, you just need someone to put their hand up like Leanne and say, I'm racing this marathon, I need a pacer. Because we know you'll get up.
You did offer, so.
It's funny though. It's true.
Like tomorrow if you give him the green light.
But that's isn't that the mental side of it, Moose? Like when I'm pacing Gold Coast, like I was hurting at 25K at the Gold Coast this year, but I could fight for another 5K because I'm like, but also like you've been given a job, so and you're helping other people, so it means something to you. It's important. Bit like when, I don't know, like as I said, when Jen caught me, it definitely sort of got me going. Whereas I think if it was somebody else, it was just like, okay, keep going, good job. I'll just keep rolling my 335s to 340s here. So anyway, that was Melbourne Marathon. Let's thank some Patreons. Who you got, Moose?
Yeah, let me just pull that up. I was on your Strava just checking it out.
Yeah.
Let me pull up my man's Bruce Thomas. He's from Farnham in the UK. According to his Strava bios, PBs of 18:23 for 5K, 37:48 at the 2013 Yateley 10K series, 85 minutes at the 2013 Fleet Half Marathon, and 3:05 at the 2022 Manchester Marathon. He runs for Aldershot, Farnham and District.
Very good. Thanks, Bruce. Leanne, who have you got?
I've got Rebecca Kane. Couldn't find her on Strava, but we did find a few results. Rebecca has run 22:34 at the Rhodes Park Run, 43:02 at 2021 Sydney 10, 1:48 at last year's Gold Coast Half Marathon, and 4:10 at the 2021 Canberra Marathon. She's potentially a solicitor at Legal Aid New South Wales.
Very good. And I've got Shane Dorian, and I believe Shane lives in Belfast, Northern Ireland, and by the looks of Strava, loves his shoes. I put his Strava link there, Moose. He's got so many shoes. He's got a very solid shoe rotation. Couldn't find any race results, but his estimated best times on Strava are 20:39 for 5K, 41:43 for 10, 94:11 for the half. So thank you to all those Patreons. Not sure when Road to Chicago will be recording their last episode, but it'll be out in the next few days. And then we'll be looking for, to start up the Road to Valencia with Chriso, Jordo, and hopefully somebody else. All right, running news.
That'd be good.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that. Chriso's turned his running around in the last few months, and I guess Jordan will be after. I think, what's Jordan's PB? Is it like high 220s?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe 227 or something.
Yeah. So he'll be looking to beat that. All right, running news. We'll kick off with the Melbourne Marathon results. So Jack Rayner made a return to the marathon after a few years. He won in 2:11:49. I think he was like 66 flat through halfway and then just under 66 for the second. That was the fastest ever time. Fastest ever Australian in Victoria. Ryan Gregson was second, 2:13:31, so it was about a minute 23 PB, and Christoper Dryden was third in 2:18:10. Jen Gregson got the win in the women's, 2:28:13. Sarah Klein second, 2:31:05. Kate Mason third in 2:34:08. Good run from Jack, Moose.
Very good. I thought it was not a fast day on the course. Ignore the half marathoners. They didn't go down Fitzroy Street. That was the toughest bit. Back up from Elwood, pretty hard. So the marathon, they copped a few extra segments of wind, I reckon.
Yeah.
2:11:49 is a good, very good run, I thought. Considering like Jen, she's 2:23 girl, isn't she?
Yeah, she is. Yeah.
2:23. So she's 5 minutes off her PB. So for Jack to run that time, I was really impressed at the end when I heard that. And he did look in control every time he went past. of that pack that in the beginning had him, Ryan, and Reece Edwards in it.
And it's not up a traditional like marathon build for him. Like his volume hasn't been high. He said like he hasn't even been doing any of those sort of real marathon specific sessions. But I think it also goes to show like you probably can get through a good marathon if you've got good natural speed. You probably don't need quite as much volume. Whereas for him, going through halfway in 66 when he's probably capable of breaking 60 for the half, like 6 minutes slower than half marathon pace should feel fairly comfortable for him. So hopefully he continues and so I can get that case of beer off you, Moose, when he's faster marathoner than Brett.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still back in that. I'm still okay with that.
All right. In the half marathon in the men's, Andy Buchanan got the win, 61:42. So it was a course record by 15 seconds. And thanks to David Tarbottom for sending through some stats. That moves him to number 13 all time. Haftu Strintzos made his debut, 62:24 for second, moves him to 24th all time, and Liam Boudin was third in 62:32. So some pretty quick times there, Moose, like in the men's, like and good depth as well. Like Seth O'Donnell was fourth there.
What did he run?
63 something. Yep.
Yeah. No, very good depth. Again, a very solid race. And you had Brett Robinson was 6th place, maybe?
Something like that. Yeah, 66, I think he ran.
Yeah, I mean, you got an Australian record holder in 6th place. Like this is kind of showing that like the people coming through now. Andy, I feel, has taken another step, if that was sort of possible after breaking 2:10. Another step to be the favourite on the start line of nearly every start line he's on now, from distances from 10K up, including cross country. He's becoming one of our premier runners. Like where we would look at, like if Jack Rayner was in this race, like how does he go against Andy? That kind of level of runner.
Well, you don't see many sub 62s by Australians on Australian soil.
No, we don't at all. And this was another one where I heard the results and I was quite shocked to hear how fast that was. And I was like, I wasn't shocked to hear Andy won it. I was shocked the time that he ran.
Leanne Pompeani got the win in the women, 69:01. It's just 75-second course record and the second fastest Aussie on home soil, only 13 seconds off Lisa's time from the Sunshine Coast. Jess Stenson, 69:04 for second, moves to number 9 all time. And Izzi Batt-Doyle, 69:09, moves her to number 10 all time. And interesting stat from Tarby, she's now in the top 10 in the 5,000, 10,000, half marathon and marathon. There's only 2 other Aussies that have done the same. Can you name them?
Benita.
Yep. And
I'm going to say Karen.
No. So they're in the top 10 for the 5, the 10, the half, and the marathon. Who's your guess, Leanne?
Oh, are they fast runner?
No, they're still running.
Okay. Oh, I don't know.
Eloise.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And then in the 10K, Dale Carroll got the win, 29:20. Matt Buckle second, 29:27. Adam Goddard third, 29:27 as well. In the women's, Bronte Oates 33 flat. Melissa Duncan second, 33:41, and Georgia Hansen 33:51. So that's the Melbourne Marathon recap. Moose, Chicago Marathon.
Chicago, yes. Did you wake up, watch Brady?
No, but it's funny because so after the race, went out for a few beers with Zachar and a few of the Melbourne uni crew. So we got home pretty late. Actually, what are the chances? We're walking home from whichever pub we're at, and we bump into basically the MTC party. There's Brett, Jack, Jen, Ryan. Like we don't know Melbourne at all, but yeah, walking home bumped into them. But then because I had a few drinks and didn't get to bed till real late, because I think Brady's race was like 11:30 our time. I remember waking up at about maybe 2 hours 15 after that time, and I'm like, oh, he'll still be sort of running, and then I fell back to sleep, and then basically when I woke up the next time, I saw his Strava of just over 2:20.
Yeah, we could talk about. I mean, yeah. So Brady ran 2019, was it?
Yeah, around that. Yep.
2019. So he is clocking up some 220s, our man.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, we ran so badly that Brady has knocked this out the park.
Well, yeah. Well, my comment moves based on how like we both felt during Melbourne and our mentality in terms of just in a way sort of, I don't know, like maybe not caring or just, when, as the non-competitive, like I was the same, like I just wasn't competitive. I'm like, if someone went past me, I didn't really care. Whereas I feel like Brady, like every time he steps on a start line, he doesn't just pack it in and just go, oh, yeah, today's not my day. I'm not going to run the 218. Like he still pushes and still runs a really respectable time. Whereas I know personally, I reckon there's a few times that if I was in Brady's shoes, I'm like, I wanted 218 today. I'm not getting 218. I'm just going to roll through 223, 224. But he never does that.
Doesn't ever have big blow-ups. He just has little fades.
Yeah.
And the little fades take him away from his goal, but not by much.
Yeah.
And it's probably, I mean, he ran some serious Ks in the build-up here. He was running 200K a week regularly. He sort of went to this high-volume sort of model. Not that he hasn't done high volume before, but it's almost prioritized it sort of. And I don't know exactly what the conditions were like. They were okay, weren't they? Maybe a little warm.
Well, the female ran sub 210.
Yeah, okay. Pretty good then. Okay. So yeah, I think it'd be good to hear from him on the other podcast. I would have liked to hear his thoughts tonight, whether he was disappointed, happy, somewhere in the middle. I'm guessing it's somewhere in the middle. It's funny to run 219 at Ballarat, like semi by yourself for the last however long, and then you go in this huge block. And he did that after Valencia went. Osaka didn't go that great for him, and he sort of did it off a whim almost. And then this one here, he's built up, dedicated, flown across the world, went there early, and then this happens. It's just such a weird thing, isn't it?
Well, that was my question to him last week when he came on. I said, has it sort of gone through? Have you thought about the fact that you ran 219 in Ballarat off not really traditional marathon training, yet you've thrown sort of the kitchen sink at this one, traveled to the other side of the world, and potentially won't run faster than that? Like, yeah, which has happened, but that's also the marathon. Like, there are some I feel like there is on any given day a couple of minutes either side of, you either have the legs in that last part of the marathon or you don't. And like potentially Brady still is in 217 shape, but it's just did not have the legs in the last 7K.
Oh, do you know what I've been thinking? And I thought a bit about Brady. Brady might be a 219 guy. And yes, he's run faster than that over the half. Like his shorter distance races suggest he could be faster in the marathon based on calculators and all this sort of like comparisons and that kind of thing. But it's not like he hasn't had a crack at it. It's not like he hasn't had perfect or very good preparations that have put him on the start line in the shape that he's got. And he's had start lines where the weather has been good. And if he ends as a 219 guy, then he is one of the, still, he would be in the top 10 Australians each year that he's done that over the marathon. And that's sensational. And that's he's not in the top 10 in any other distance in Australia, but he goes to the marathon, runs 219. He'll be in the top 10 for the year. And so we always want more for him, but at some point you reach your ceiling, and maybe his ceiling's 219 in the marathon. And all these 220s, they're like 99% great races, but you just can't run a PB every time you run. And once you hit your ceiling, then it's okay not to run PBs every time. Is that fair?
Yeah, even his PB, it still ranks him just outside like the top 100 like Australians all time.
Yes,
Like, which is pretty damn. It's here 100. I still got his Berlin one there. So like he's like in the 120s or something for like all time. I don't know. Like I woke up on Monday morning and saw the result, and like no doubt he would, like in a way, would be disappointed because he didn't go over there to run 220. Like he certainly went there to run a PB. But I was bloody proud of him because knowing what we went through on the Sunday and knowing bloody how hard that event is, he is so consistent. And I feel like it's bloody hard to be consistent over the marathon because some days out there you just want to give up. And it's very easy to do at 30K, and he never does that.
Yeah, I know he's tough. Yeah. He's tough. The way he gets it done like that is tough, and he's tough. Like he's tough in the way that he can have all these cracks, and he doesn't shy away from saying he wants to run 218, 217, whatever. He doesn't shy away from that. He gets up and he goes again. Mm-hmm. And that's credit to him. So he's still going to keep going at it like a dog after a bone, and that's very noble.
Yeah. Oh, tell us about who won the race.
Yeah. So he remember he was talking about going with the women's pack. Well, probably lucky he didn't go with the women's pack because Ruth Chepengedich, she has done one of the most sensational things that I've ever seen in sport. Funny we haven't mentioned that until now, but she's ran 209.56, running the first lady to go under 2 hours 10 ever, broke the world record by like 3 minutes or something ridiculous. Maybe more than
2, wouldn't it? Wasn't it 211?
Oh yeah.
Yes, it was 211 something, wasn't it?
Something, yeah. And at the time that was fairly unbelievable conversation. And she's done it with a positive split. So she's run 64.16 for the first half. Insane. Like, was that the 5th fastest half marathon ever? I think that might have been it. And then she's run 65.40 to come home after going through in the 5th fastest half marathon of all time. Ruth, she's the greatest of, like, this is the best performance in running ever.
Is this good for the sport? And so, like, my question to you, Leanne, is like, you are like obviously one of the best runners in our country, but the way that you ran at World Cross, like, you're one of the best sort of in the world. But when you look at something like this, it's like even you at your best, like you are just so far, you're so far behind. But like, how does this make you feel? Like when you are trying to be one of the best in the world, is it demoralizing? Is it inspiring?
100%. I think it's more demoralizing. It's like, oh, why do I do this for? No, it's sort of no. You sort of feel like you're competing. There's like two. Like, you know how we sort of say like, oh, you're competing against, you know, it's us against, it's the Africans, and then it's us. It's the next. Oh, I was the first of the.
Yeah, non-African, first non-African. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. But you just, I mean, yeah, we could. I was blown away at the 2:11 world record, and this just, I don't know, just pretty like unbelievable. But believe it until I don't know. And I guess it also doesn't help when lately I've been seeing more on Facebook and Instagram where, you know, Kenyans are getting popped quite frequently, and just it's I don't know. It is demoralizing, but
Moose, is this one of those that, like, if it seems too good to be true, then it's not? Like,
it's just, I'm stuck in two minds here. Number one is it's not fair to speculate, and she's run it. We don't have any evidence, so we got to be respectful of that. Whereas two, last week we had a chat about how there's 150 Kenyans serving doping bans, and pretty much in any example of these things in our sport, if it is too good to be true, it probably is. In nearly all endurance sport, when there's outliers like this, there's something dodgy going on. We saw it back when the Chinese were doing crazy things in the middle distance.
Yeah.
And now we're seeing it in the longer distance stuff with a lot of the Kenyans.
Like the thing that baffles me, Moose, is it wasn't that long ago. Look, I know shoe technology has improved, but even back when those shoes first came out, like you go to a major marathon, and if a female ran like a 2:18, 2:17, like, you know, it was an incredible run. Like there were a handful of people that had ever done it. And some of these people that are running 2:17, 2:18 have been phenomenal athletes across like all distances, you know, like Olympic medalists on the track and stuff like that. Then to come out and be pretty much 10 minutes faster than that, like we don't see the men's world record come down by close to 10, like, or I guess the world record's probably only come down sort of 5 minutes, because like it was Paula Radcliffe there for a long time at 2:15 or something. But even the men pre-super shoes, they still ran a 2:03?
2:02 something in the you're talking about the men?
Yeah.
2:02.44.
Like I don't know. I just feel like sub 2:10 for female.
Do you know the men's though? John Correa has gone through 62.19, 60.25.
Yeah.
But this lady Ruth, she's beating all the others who have super shoes on. It's not a super shoe thing.
No, I'm not saying it's a super
shoe
thing.
I know
that.
But that's just the point. Like the last world record she beat by however many minutes was super shoe record too.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's all shoe. Like I know it's a convenient thing to talk about, but it just can't be.
I would love to see, because we're talking about the so the world record for the women over 5K is 14 flat. Now, I reckon most people that have run 2:09.56 probably going well under 14 minutes for a 5K. Generally, wouldn't you agree?
Well, think about our Australians that have gone under 2:10.
Yeah. They've all broken 14.
The 6 of them.
Fair bit.
Or 7 now. 7.
There's like 8, isn't there?
Oh, yeah. Pat,
because there's Pat as well, yeah. Yeah. So she's the marathon world record holder, but she'd probably jump on the track and take the 5 and the 10 as well. Anyway, who was second?
Sutumi Asefa Kabedi. She was 8 minutes back.
Daylight second.
Yeah, real daylight. 2:17.32, and Irene Cheptai was 2:17.51. And in the men's, John Correa 2:02.44. He won over Mohamed Essa 2:04.39 and Amos Kipruto 2:04.50.
Yeah, crazy. Anyway, last bit of news. So New Zealand are working on a bid to host the 2028 World Indoors, but potentially it would be outdoors. So potentially Eden Park or the new Christchurch Stadium are noted as potential venues. So in the news article, they said that as long as the track is like 200 metres, although it's called World Indoors, it actually doesn't need to be indoors. Interesting. So watch this space.
So you'd put like a drop-in short track.
Yeah, in just a stadium. Yeah.
That's a bit weird, isn't it? Like they're going to call it World Indoors.
Yeah, I know.
Why would they need that though? Why does New Zealand want that?
I don't know. It should be that. Well, if you can actually have it outdoors, it should be just the World Short Course in a way, not World Indoors.
I don't understand why you would be trying to, because hosting it would be good to build the particular sport in your country. If you don't have a single track in your country, and making short course tracks would be super expensive.
Yeah,
it wouldn't really be sustainable for the future.
And it's an interesting move.
I was going to say, well, seasons though. Doesn't that mean it's the opposite season?
Yeah, because World Indoors is often like
fair, right?
Summer. Yeah, I don't know how that'll work, but I also find it really interesting in that, like New Zealand athletics, they've got one of the toughest like qualifications to get to a World Championships or an Olympics. Yet they're willing to throw money at World Indoors. Why not just let your athletes go to the Olympics and World Champs?
Costs you a bit less than hosting a championships.
Yeah. All right, listener question. This one's more of a discussion that I was thinking about while I was sitting in my hotel room on Saturday. So the question is, why don't we run marathons on Saturday instead of Sunday? So hear me out. If you're traveling for the event, that means you can enjoy the rest of your weekend if you get it done on Saturday morning, rather than wasting all of Saturday sitting around eating plain rice and pasta in like a hotel room or Airbnb, because you can't really go out for a nice meal because you're trying to get as many carbs in as possible. So to do that, you're better off just having your own like pasta with a bit of like pesto sauce over the top or something. Also, I'm sure the supportive friends and family who have traveled with you would also have a more enjoyable weekend. Discuss, Moose.
I get it. I kind of get it. But I think if you're closing roads down for a whole city, Sunday morning is so much more acceptable for a city to shut roads down.
Yeah.
Cheaper. Yeah. Saturdays are carnage still everywhere. And there's so much going on. People are out. People are working still. Sports everywhere. I think it comes down to the city.
Yeah, because I was also wondering whether, like, traditionally, like back in the day when, you know, I guess work hours were probably a bit more fixed. It was like real rigid Monday to Friday. So if you wanted to travel for an event, you'd travel on the Saturday, then do the race Sunday. But in today's sort of environment, you know, people can easily like just, you know, take a day off here and there. Anyway, I was just thinking about that because it's like we were sitting in the hotel room, poor Viv, like just bored shitless. Well, I'm there like putting those like pouches of rice in the microwave and chucking some like crushed tomatoes over the top. That's my dinner while she goes and grabs some takeaway somewhere. It's just like the other events are different. Like a 10K half marathon, you can still go out and like eat sort of normally, but for the marathon, it's like you don't do anything on the Saturday if you're trying to do it well.
But even just like, yeah, like you said, the Saturday, you're just thinking about, oh, I don't want to walk around too much. I can't be doing too many steps the day before a race. And yeah.
But and then you get the race done. You get to go out Saturday afternoon, evening, wake up, still have Sunday. Yeah. Anyway, that was my thinking as to why don't we have more of those events on Saturday, and whether people would prefer Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah, I don't know. I like Sunday. I like the tradition of Sunday race.
I'd go a Saturday marathon for sure. Like I'd be happily carb load Wednesday, Thursday, sort of Friday around home, and then get the race done, and then go and enjoy my weekend in whichever city I've travelled to. Anyway, listener question done. Moose on the loose. What do we got?
Well, I've kind of done the self-seeding thing.
Very good. All right. What's coming up, Leanne? Anything exciting over the next, or you're under Bernie, but back into...
Yeah, so nothing really exciting this weekend. But yeah, Bernie 10 will be on the 27th of October.
Yep. Good luck down there. I hear, was it you that told me the whisper?
Yeah, it was me.
Yeah, that's right. So the whisper the other week, Moose, about that Bernie would be a bit light on because of Ramsden's wedding.
Yes.
That whisper came from Leanne.
Oh, yeah, good. Now, you might have hurt yourself there because everyone else just entered.
Yeah.
You just opened up the field to everyone not going to the wedding.
You can't say anything to Cropes in the long run.
Have you heard, did you speak to Izzi about Bernie?
She originally was going to, but I think now she's passed on Bernie because she wants to focus her prep on Valencia, I think, unless she's changed her mind.
Oh, I'll back you in for Bernie, I reckon. Moose, what do you got? Interview with the project tomorrow night or something after your heroics?
Mate, the 15 minutes is over now. I am back to work again. The fame's done. The TikTok star is over.
You know, Instagram Reel has had like 40,000 views.
40,000, that's a lot, is it, for us?
I guess so. I know 36,000 of those are probably you in your in the back office at just click and refresh.
Replay.
I was going to say, you guys don't realise that my mum actually works for 7 News. She's the one who put that video up on there.
It makes sense now. Anyway, good job, Moose, on the weekend. So next week we'll be back. Brady will be back hosting, so that'll be good. I get to relax. I guess that's a bit. Anything else to add, Moose, before we go?
Thanks, Leanne. Good.
Oh, no, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And also big shout out to just all of Brady's replacements we've had over the last 10 weeks. Like, it's been like really enjoyable hearing from you, and we appreciate you all giving up your time.
No, thank you. And good to see you out doing a race. When I saw you at the finish line, I mean, you were pretty beat, but no, it was good to see you doing it.
Yeah, I may sign up for something else maybe in a year or two. No, I'll be back. If you do a marathon, Leanne, I'll help you train for it.
All right, I'm keeping your word on that.
All right, done. All right, we'll be back next week. Chat then. See ya.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. Ready to take your race performance to the next level? We've already spoken about Precision Fuel and Hydration's online planner. Well, if you prefer talking to a human, you can also book a free consultation call to get a personalised strategy. We all love their products, and if you use the link in the show notes and the code INSIDERUN15, you can benefit from 15% off your first order and start to fall in love with their products too.
Under